Hello and welcome to Tawana Talks. Um, just as a reminder, the talks are for just one, and sometimes I'm just one. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Growing up, I remember hearing the phrase, what, because I said so. Like when I've ever asked why, it was because I said so. Um, and so we grow up saying those same things to our children, like, why? Because I said so. It wasn't until I became an adult, and even not even just an adult, but an educator, and understanding the processes of learning, that because I said so was not good enough. Now, I'm not saying this to say to tag your parenting or tag anyone's authority, because I said so got me through to adulthood and got my parent by. But I'm thinking about just shifting your thought process a little bit, and digging a little bit deeper, because again, the purpose of these are for daily life reflections, to be able to enhance your life and enhance your relationships with others, and just look at things in a different light. Just because things were done the way they were done doesn't always mean they have to continue being done that way. And so sometimes we think that when people are asking us why, we think that they're questioning our authority, or they don't trust our judgment. And then oftentimes it really is for understanding or lack of understanding. I know I operate best when I'm able to understand the process. And if I don't understand the process, that also may lead to me not having the right terminology to ask the right questions. So the only question I know is why, what, when, how. But I have to dig a little bit deeper to make a deeper question for understanding. And so that why may just be the only question I have, or the only question someone asking may have. And so we think about, let's take an example of children. Children ask why all of the time. Why? And to the point where like, because I said so. But stopping for a moment and realizing, like, what are they really asking? We teach in society, in the world, in the workplace, in schools, to ask questions for a deeper level of understanding. But when it comes sometimes to home, it's like, don't ask questions, just do as I say, and let's just get it done because I said so. But what would it look like if we were able to dive deeper into the dialogue and answer those questions, and have conversations to have an understanding of what's the true question? What are you truly asking? You're not tagging my authority. You're not tagging my judgment. You're not um, um, lacking a trust in my judgment. You're just trying to develop an understanding, to be able to move forward. And so it makes me think about things that we use in the workplace and in schools. As adults, we are taught to challenge the process so that we can be able to grow in an organization. If we are leading or working in an organization, or if we are just looking for personal development, then we are asking questions why. And that what that looks like is, um, why do I think like this? Why do I behave like this? Why has this become a certain protocol in my life, in the workplace? Why do we do things this way? And we're asking that question possibly to see if there's another way to do it, a more efficient or effective way to do it. So we're asking the question why, for a deeper level of understanding. In schools, we teach our children and our students to ask those questions why, so that they can have a deeper level of understanding. And we tell our kids when they go to school, you need to ask questions so that you can understand. But when they get home, we're like, don't ask no questions here. You don't need to understand. That is a double standard, and I'm guilty of it as well. And so this is a working progress for me. But just reflecting back on understanding that the limited question, which seems uh, puts us on a defense is because most cases that don't really have the level of understanding to ask the right questions. And so again, just digging deeper into what is it that you're asking, because you, as the person being asked the question why, may have a level of understanding and a deeper knowledge of what you're requiring of the other person who is asking why. You may be able to then ask some questions to get an understanding of what it is they're truly trying to ask and build a relationship. Because think about it, if someone asks you a question and they say why, and you're defensive and you're like, because I said so, right there, the relationship is cut. Like, it's done because I said so. And so they're only doing it because you said so. That's it. No other reason to do it. And so, what would it look like if that person understood the reasoning behind and they had a level of understanding? How powerful would that be on how they operate and what you're asking them to do? Because then there's a sense of partnership. Now I understand the why behind it because then I understand the outcome of it. So now I may then need to do the task in a way that is heightened. I may need to do the task at a level 10 because I understand what the outcome is going to be or the reason behind it. And so therefore I give it my all, as opposed to because I said so. So you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to do it like this because you said so. So like, I think about when my older children were younger, I would always say, did you wipe so things like chores? Did you wipe the table? And they're like, yeah. And then I would go to the table or the counter and be doing something. And let me clarify this, because if they're listening, they're going to be like, I knew it. I was not going to double check behind them. I mean, sometimes I did, but anywho, I was going, like, if I was going to the counter to cook or do something at the counter and I touch it, I'm like, this table is not, or this counter is not wiped off. Like, I would be a crumb on my hand or something sticky. And like, I did wipe it. And my answer was always, don't wipe it just to wipe it correctly, the right way. And if we think about if they said why, and I said because I said so, it's like I wipe the table, so it's done. But the why behind wiping the table is so we can have a clean house, so that if you are cooking something, then germs aren't spread, or the house isn't dirty, you don't get bugs and rodents and things of that nature. And then give them a deeper why, like, okay, I need to wipe the table well, so the correct way, and check it to make sure it's clean so that this doesn't happen. It's not because you said so. That's why I'm doing it. And so when you give a person a level of context to the reason behind why you're asking something, it creates like a mental model. It builds a level of understanding. And so I think about how our decisions shape our outcome. And so deciding to do it because you said so could be a lower level of an outcome, as opposed to understanding why it is that you're asking them to do, the person or whomever, to do what you're asking them to do, will then shape the level of the outcome there. Now, I've talked a lot about what that looks like for children in schools, quite naturally, because I'm a teacher. But even thinking about it organizationally, partner wise, significant others, then you leave the space open for the partner or the organization individual to be able to be in agreement or not in agreement. Yeah, well, that's maybe they could answer the question like, what you're asking is actually outside of the capacity of what I'm able to do. So now that I understand your why, I can't do that. Or I have a deeper level of understanding of what you're asking me. And now I may have to take a different approach to achieve that outcome, or have other individuals included in the task to achieve the level of outcome that you're looking for. And so just thinking about it on a multiplicity of levels, when you're just in relationship with children, and as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader, as a partner, as a significant others in a family, this could apply anywhere. When someone's asking why, don't get on the defense. Try to understand, like, is that the limited question because you don't understand? In most cases, it is. Even if the question is asked in why, in haste, or in aggravation, think about it. if you don't understand something, then that does increase your levels of aggravation because you just don't understand. And as a people, we don't like to feel inferior. We don't like to not understand. That's a double negative, but we don't like to not understand things. And so, therefore, that's already an uncomfortable space. And so, what would it look like if we were talking about for children, making that space a little bit more uncomfortable, making it a norm to not know and then ask questions? We have to remember, if we're talking about children, they've only been in the world for a certain amount of years, depending on the age that we're talking about. And anybody has only been in the world for the amount of time that they've been in the world. But then if we look at different specificities of things that we're talking about, if it's a job, they may have only been on the job for that certain amount of time, being on that job, in that position, in that marriage, those types of things. And so we can't assume that people come into things with a knowledge of what is expected. There's always learning, and there's always iterations and evolution that's happening. And so that's important to think about. And so um, when we're looking to have someone do something that we're requesting or requiring from them, it's it's better. Well, I don't want to say better because to each his own. I think it's more powerful um, for us to think about teaching systems as opposed to why, like just because I said so. Um, and so we have systems of understanding, and that changes the mode that increases or enhances your level of understanding, because we taught a system, and a system is meaning gives someone the context of this happens, cause and effect, and we teach it in school. So cause and effect, this happens when we do this, this happens, which causes this, and then we do this, and then we do this, as opposed to just do this and you have no idea of why you're doing it. Imagine if someone was building a house and they said, you have to, dig first and then pour the concrete. And they never told them that was laying the foundation. And they're like, this has nothing to do with building a house. I just want to build a house. Um, what would be the outcome for having a house not built with the foundation? If growing grass and you never aerated, you just plop some seeds down and watered. It's like, I don't understand why the grass is not growing, not understanding that process. And so just thinking, operating in life, we operate on processes. We understand cause and effect. If I do this, then this will happen. And that's my reason why of doing this, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And so communicating that same aspect to individuals you're in relationship with when the question comes up of why. When you don't, I just think when you don't answer the questions why, and you don't dig deeper into that, and you just say, because I said so, or just do it this way, it's like creating a crutch, and you're stifling growth and comprehension because you've not given the reason behind what is being requested. And so the person is just completing the task because you said so, or because that's the way we've always done it, or because it's just something that needs to be done, but have no understanding of the need. That's a crutch. It's not helping to build on a level of understanding. So if they don't know how, then it's difficult for them to develop a sense of critical thinking. And that's what everyone like. But when I'm thinking about children, critical thinking is very important because their their interaction with process and cause and effect builds and strengthens that critical thinking. It happens in their frontal cortex of their brain, and it's not fully developed until about the age of 23. And so all of the um, interactions and all of the daily actions that happen help to build and strengthen that, and creates a context of their understanding there. And so when things are not happening that helps to build that, then it stifles it. And so then you have adults who are at 25, 26 who lack those skills because they've been in environments where they've never been able to understand a process and build it. And so then we have reckless behaviors and things of that nature. Um, this, I understand that this talk may be a little challenging because it was challenging for me, especially growing up. knowing that you do things because that's what your parents tell you to do. And so unlearning is the hardest thing. And so it's going to take some unlearning on your behalf. If you're listening to this and you've grown up in that way, or you've just operated in that space, it's difficult to unlearn. But notice I didn't say it was impossible to do it, but it's difficult. And so little by little, piece by piece, when you hear why, let that be a trigger to not respond negatively, excuse me, but let it be a trigger to stop for a moment and say, oh, this is my opportunity to help build comprehension, to help develop understanding. And that's with everyone that you're in a relationship with. So why are they really questioning your authority?